Welcome to the Attractions Group Podcast, Episode 9. We're here tonight in this warm August evening. I'm here with my good friend but better enemy, Don Helbig. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you
I'm
doing?
doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Hard to believe summer winding down. I mean, we're just a couple of weeks away from
Oh, I
Labor Day.
know. Labor Day is coming up. Before you know it, it'll be fall. And then you have people like, I don't know, your daughter posting about how much she loves sweater weather and stuff. And everybody who loves summer is going to be hating on her. No offense, Maria. We love you. Oh, man.
But no, it's just flying by, and that means we're getting right around the corner the Halloween season, followed by the holiday winter events that all the parks do. So we're going to talk about it over the next several weeks.
Oh, we are. And it's funny because this time of year, classically, I always kind of got depressed because, you go from this to like maybe something on Labor Day and then you go over to haunt season, then it's done. Then you got no parks unless you live in the South for about 6 months. But now with, holiday season coming up, that's really my favorite time of year with the park. So this is actually a time of year I look forward to. But Don, what we got going on today? What do you want to remind our listeners of?
Well, you're listening to us. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, YouTube. Our Twitter handle is attractions_GRP. So just make sure you follow us there. I have a treasure trove of amusement park memorabilia. I'm going to give away randomly to a lucky winner. Once we reach 100 Twitter followers, somebody's going to win one of my items that I have. And, it's going to be a fun Twitter account to follow. We're wanting to make this more interactive, and to do that, and the best way to do it is on Twitter, where we can have some interaction that way, and we can post your questions that you have for us, and Ryan and I can talk about it there. But Ryan, let's talk about this podcast for a second. We had some good news over the weekend. We're doing pretty well. Apple Podcast rankings have us in position 13 in a category of entertainment news in the United States, and that's a pretty big place.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's a lot of podcasts about entertainment news because I don't necessarily think we fit that mold because we are entertainment news, but we're not talking about Leonardo DiCaprio or anything like that. But it's really cool. We actually, after the first couple episodes, got another email saying that we were like number 1,000 something, which I kind of discarded. But we've definitely climbed the ranks. But again, this wouldn't be possible without the support of everybody listening. So we really appreciate everybody who took the time to listen to us babble on for an hour a week. Don, I appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast with me and throw on your Hawaiian shirt, hook up your mic, and do all this. But again,
it's fun. We're about fun, right? And that's why we do this, because
we're
it's
just
fun.
in it for a good time. Notice that there are no sponsors yet. But yeah, so we love talking about this. By the way, if you want to tweet us at attractions_GRP, let us know of any topics that you want us to cover. We're always fishing for ideas. If you have ideas for guests you want us to have on, we're totally open for that. If there's like dying questions that you've had about the industry that you want us to discuss, especially marketing, stuff like that, that's where we come into play. But feel free to shoot it at us. We'd love to hear your ideas. But you can follow us on your favorite podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and so on, by searching for the Attractions Group Podcast. And then on YouTube, if you search for the Attractions Group Podcast, you can give us a subscribe, which would be great. We want to start going on live on YouTube. If we go on live on YouTube, Don can give away more of the stuff in his garage, and you can have more memorabilia, and Don's wife can have more free space for her crafts. So anyway, Don, what are we talking about today?
Should be thrilled with that.
This is going to be the giveaway sponsored by Don's wife. Let's call it that. We've got an official name.
Yeah, well, let's to Ryan tonight. It's episode number 9. So let's talk about creating that perfect enthusiast event.
Now, Don, you have some experience with this, do you not?
I do. I've created several different events. Some on a smaller scale, one-offs, and then also a major event that has become annual. It's been around for now 7 years, so a lot of experience doing that, and to put on. And it's great to see when you do these, and for the enthusiast community, and just how much fun they have, and so it's definitely it's a lot of work, though.
It most certainly is, and it's very stressful. I remember when I ran KICentral.com, when you first came into Cedar Fair back in 2007, wasn't it? That was one of the first things that we worked together on. Was we were in the midst of working on an event back then with Maureen Kaiser, who left the company. And then I remember when we were first, like when it first looked like it was going to be real, like, okay, we're actually going to do this. Because I'd been dreaming of having an event since 2005 when I attended my first event, which was with Coaster Buzz. It was called Beast Buzz at the time. And I remember having a dream that we assumed that thousands were going to show up. So we booked the Timberwolf. For those of you who don't know, that's the 10,000 seat concert venue at Kings Island. And we filled up almost the front row. So that was my
I, rem-
nightmare. But I will tell you this: I
I
remember
remember that.
just losing sleep over both the excitement and all that. And then we ended up doing, I think, two more, because I know we did the one in 2007, and then we did one the next year, and then we did one for KI Central's 10th birthday party, which I think was a free event. That was more of a not ERT or anything, but a couple backstage tours and stuff like that. So that was always fun.
Now,
I
which
like promoting them better than doing them, honestly. I love like teasing them and stuff. So fun.
which one of those events that you did? I remember you showed up at one of them. You're wearing a tie, and it's like 98 degrees outside, and you've got this long sleeve shirt on with a tie.
I remember you wearing a tie too that day, Don.
Well, I had to wear a tie. You were, guessing the part. So
Well, that was the first event, and that was my co-conspirator for KI Central, Dane Thomas, who still runs the show over there. He had that idea that we should look professional and dress up in a shirt and tie, and that turned from, like anything with Dane, it turned from a joke into a reality, and it was kind of fun because we'd have been to other events with Coaster Buzz and Gawk and Ace and stuff, and had a great time, but it was always very casual. So us showing up and like we're gonna take this seriously, I think that the people that came got a kick out of it. Not that we were trying to say like, oh, we've got to go sign some documents after this, but just having a little bit of fun with it was really really cool. Um, but yeah, that was a really good time. I hope KIC can do an event again at some point, but it seems like with the current events, how the parks are doing it, it's a little bit easier to have one event for everybody that's huge rather than a bunch of little events. And that just kind of makes sense. But, when you say you're in a marketing department, and you decide you're going to do an event, what's the first step? How do you kick it off?
well, the first step is you have to identify what the goals are. What are you trying to accomplish with this event? Is it you're going to invite all the different clubs, or you're trying to you have a new attraction that you're trying to create more awareness for that. So really, just what is the goal of the event? And then the other thing you have to do is you're going to have to get buy-in from all the different divisions, because you can have the idea, you can create an itinerary, but your operations department has to be on board and as excited as you are about it. Your food and beverage team has to be on board and as excited as you are about it. Your safety and security teams have to be on board. Maintenance has to definitely be on board, because that means they got to get there early in the morning to have these rides open if you're going to do exclusive ride time in the morning to kind of kick off the event. So they have to be involved. Just really every touch point at the park, merchandise, everybody has to be, on board and very excited about it. Because that's going to create the experience. You again, you can make the itinerary, but if nobody around the park's excited about it, and it's just not going to be a great event.
Yeah, I completely agree. So you mentioned getting food involved in merchandise and security and maintenance. What are some of the ways that you can get them riled up and excited about it? Like I imagine to softball one. I imagine when we talk about like food, especially, um, it would be like this is a good opportunity to showcase what you got going on. What about like merchandise, maintenance, rides, so on?
Well, I mean, it's the rides. That's the thing that you're going to showcase those definitely with the lineup that you put out there. If you have new shows, you're going to be highlighting those and promoting those. You're sending however many people come to your event. You're sending out sales reps onto the street right after that event, or just talking about your event to their workers, their neighbors, everything like that about your park. So it's really an opportunity, um, you know, for all divisions at a park, all departments, to shine and show, that there's a reason to come to this park, and it's not just about the rides, but no matter where you go around the park, everything is just so much fun for everybody to experience. And You get the merchandise wise we're talking about that, just even the design of a T-shirt or something. They're involved with that piece of it. So, it's a chance to really just showcase everything your park has to offer, from the entry experience to the end of the night.
So did you attend many events before you were in the industry? And if so, like
I did.
how does that affect like when you develop things like Coaster Stock, Ride Warrior Coaster Weekend, Chaos Central Day, Ace Coaster Con, and so on?
Well, I drew from those experiences. I went to a lot of events, in the 80s and 90s. The American Coaster Enthusiast, their national summer convention. That's their big time event. So they had those in places like Texas and Virginia. So I was doing those. Coaster Mania at Cedar Point, Holiday World. Their annual event. So I was doing that one. I was doing the smaller scale ones. The Beast Bashes and different things that the American Coaster Enthusiast would put on. So spring conferences. So I was a lot of these different events, throughout the 80s and the 90s. And, so I drew from that experience, made a list of the things that I liked about those events, the things I didn't like about those events. But I also involved the people who attend these events. And I asked them the same kind of question, that I was asking myself. When you go to an event, what's your favorite part about it? What's your least favorite part about it? If we were to do one at this park, what would you want? So you're taking that feedback as well. So, every park has regular guests that are the enthusiast in that. And, you would want to pick 20 to 25 and let them be your panel. Throw things out at them before you put this event together. So you're getting their feedback as well. You talk about Coaster Stock. That was, almost 2 seasons in the making before we actually launched that event, because I wanted to make sure that, if we did this, it was going to be sustainable and something that the enthusiast community was going to want to do, and they were going to want to do it annually.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Coaster Stock especially has been, very well received. I you go on over Twitter. Now, I haven't been to Coaster Stock in a couple years. I have to admit, I went to the first three or four, but it seems like it's one of the events that people are like, it's my favorite time of year and stuff. So obviously, you have a very successful program. Um, so the name Coaster Stock, there's got to be a story behind it. What's the story behind a name, and what's in a name for a coaster event? Is it that important?
Well, I think it is. I mean, you're going to have it's that brand awareness for it, a brand identity when you're talking about an event at your park. So have something that is going to be sustainable. It's going to be something that's recognizable. It's going to be something that kind of tells what that event is about. You might name it after a ride you have. It can be themed after that. It can be themed after the location that you're at. Maybe your city surrounding neighborhoods, and that's known for something. You can anything that ties in. But just something that's going to be sustainable. When it came to Coaster Stock, my vision for it wasn't there was going to be the exclusive ride time and the behind the scene tours and those kind of things that the enthusiasts who attend these events they've come to expect. But what I wanted out of this was I wanted it to be a place where enthusiasts from around the country, Canada, outside the North America, that were coming to the park. Everybody coming together as one. So a gathering of people. And back in the 60s, where it was Woodstock, whatever they called it, was a gathering of people. So I thought Coaster Stock, a gathering of people. So that's kind of where that name was derived from. Was just having what I wanted the vision to be was just a gathering of people, like-minded people, coming to share their enjoyment of the amusement industry.
No, it's funny because I remember when you were developing Coaster Stock, when it was no secret that the park was planning on doing an event. I want to say, what was the first year of Coaster Stock?
2015.
Okay, so 2015 was the first year of Coaster Stock. So that was after Banshee. I believe you did
Mm-hmm.
something else in 2014. Did you have like
There
Coaster
was
Con
like
or
a
something?
spring. There was like a spring. Yeah, it was like a spring conference that year from. I think Ace had their spring
Yeah,
conference.
yeah. I mean, because I remembered that you were pretty booked as far as like the events were concerned. So 2015, you're going into having an event. I remember we were throwing around ideas for the name of the event early on. This might have been late 2014, actually. And
Yeah.
I think you actually came up with the name Coaster Stock, named after Woodstock, obviously. But I remember pitching the idea of having like a guitar and then having Woodstock, the character on the end. But there's
Yeah, yeah.
probably licensing and stuff like that. That would have been really cool. But um, yeah, it's funny because when we talk about names, the event that I created, the KI Central the event, was the simplest possible name, but I still to this day think it was very appropriate because it was KI Central the website, KI Central the social media, and then KI Central the in-person event. So, it's Star Trek the motion picture, that sort of thing. All right.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of events that have been around a long time. That you look around the industry, Cedar Point, Holiday World, Dollywood. They've all got these events that take place annually, and that name is recognizable. So it's not something you want to change year after year. You want to have a name and build upon it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you wouldn't want to change it with the times necessarily because you want to have that reputation. Speaking of recognizable names, so throughout the 80s and the 90s, you had ACE, the American Coaster Enthusiasts, right? Nowadays, we've got ACE, we've got GOC, we've got Coaster Crew, we've got Theme Park Review, and so on. All these are clubs, and they have thousands of members. How does that play into a factor when creating an event? How do you determine who to invite, who's on the list, who's involved? I mean, where do you draw that cutoff? Because I could create a club right now with just the two of us, but there's Ace with 10,000 members. Where between the two do you draw that line?
Well, I think if you're looking to create a coaster event, there's not a right or a wrong way to do it. It's about who do you have relationships with yourself? Who does the park have relationships with? Um, obviously ACE being the largest enthusiast group on the planet. You're definitely going to have them on the list. But then you have to look at the other things. What you don't want to have is all these different pop-up clubs. That people will join them because it's less expensive maybe than ACE or Great Ohio Coaster Club, and so they join that thinking that they're going to be able to go to media day events and events like Coaster Mania or Coaster Stock or one of the other ones out there. That's the reason they join it. So they're not joining it because they want to be part of a club. They're doing it because it's an easy way to get into these events. So you kind of want to avoid that as much as you can and have the more the clubs that have been around the longest have the most credibility within the industry. And that's why you're going to see the American Coaster Enthusiast, Great Ohio Coaster Club on just about everybody's list. And then you have the other ones, more regional type clubs that are out there. There's the Florida group, the Coaster Club in Florida.
Great Britain.
There's a roller coaster, Great Britain. So there's things like that. They have Great Britain, great credibility. So that's a big thing too. Is kind of look at be like if you're trying to qualify an influencer. So you want to look at what the club is. How long have they been around? What kind of credibility do they have within the industry? And kind of use that as kind of a guide for it. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. And you don't have to necessarily make it you can invite the public if you want. I mean, it's up to you what you want to do at your event, but you just want to make sure no matter who is on the list that you're just going to have the right people there, and it's going to be a great time for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You don't want to have too many. You don't want to have too few. I mean, I imagine it's probably not an easy decision. I mean, nowadays we've standardized with five or
It's not.
six, 5 or 6 clubs: Ace, GOC, Coaster Buzz, the ones that are invited to Coaster. Yeah,
Coaster Crew.
exactly. So I could see where people being left out could damage a relationship, and at the same time, inviting too many people could destroy the event. I could see where
Exactly.
that's not the best situation. How are park sponsored events different than say like Coaster Con with the American Coaster Enthusiast and so on?
It's who's running the event. The park. It's your itinerary. It's your you're creating all aspects of it. When it's a national event like ACE coming in and they're going to have their summer conference or spring conference there, they're handling all the ticket sales, they're handling all those other aspects of it. When it's the park doing it, you're handling the ticket, handling the buying, distributing the T-shirts and the lanyards and all those other kind of things. So when it's not your event and it's a club event, it puts everything else on them to handle all the logistics of it in terms of distributing all the materials and collecting the money for the tickets and all those kind of things. So that's really the biggest difference. I mean, the activities are pretty much, very similar. I mean, you're going to have ERT, you're going to have, behind the scene tours, those kind of things. But it's just those are pieces, with the materials and the ticket distribution, setting ticket prices, all those kind of things is going to be separate depending on which side's doing it.
So I'm guessing with the, with the ones that are by Ace and so on, it's kind of this is a cost per person, and then they put their own margin on top or something along those lines. So that's how the
whatever they would do, they would reach out to a park, say we want to bring the conference there,
Mm-hmm.
we want to be there on this day or these days.
Yeah.
What can we do for rides and that? What kind of itinerary can we do? But the park has to, there's going to be, the park's going to come back and say it's going to cost this much. On the tickets, it's going to cost this much for the food. So it's like any other group coming to your park. It's not any different than anything else other than they're going to get a lot more of those activities during the day.
So let me ask you this. This has always been something that's kind of burning. It seems like especially with Ace Coaster Con, it always happens to be at a park that happened to get a new coaster that year. Is that, do they do that based on because generally speaking, enthusiasts kind of know when they're coming. Do they do it based on that, or does the park hey, you might want to have it here in 2023?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they do move around, to different places on that. I think sometimes it's coincidence that things work out that way a lot. They're planning these events 2-3 years down the road sometimes, so they already know where they're going to be in 2023. It takes, you got to make sure that you're getting the, whatever the catering venues are and those kind of things, getting those booked, depending on what that group size might be, 900 people. So you're doing that a few years down the road, and a lot of things can change. So sometimes it's just coincidence that something happened to, open at that time. It's not a short trip until August and then decide where you're going next year. They already know.
Yeah, I've seen them announce, I think at each Coaster Con, they announce where the next one's going to be, or maybe even 2 out or something like that. So,
yeah. And what they try to do too, is they try to have, when you're doing the summer con, you try to have 2 or 3 different parks as part of that event. So you might be at one park for 2 days, another park for 1 day, and another for 1 day. So you're trying to get something that's in driving distance, all of them. So like 2 or 3 hours away from each other. So I remember doing one in Texas, and we were, there, and then there was Astroworld in Houston, which was 3 hours away or whatever it was from Six Flags over Texas, and then there was one other place outside of Texas that we went to as part of the the third stop on that con. So you're trying to do something. That's why it's not always just at a, you would think it's easy to do one at a park, but what else is around it. So you're trying to group things together that are within driving distance of each other to make it really worthwhile for a lot of the enthusiasts. Are going to travel from all over the country, and also internationally to come to these events. So you got to make it worth their time.
Yeah, I agree. Do parks? I mean, obviously inside the chain they would, but outside of the chain, do they coordinate with each other, or is that up to the clubs to do that?
The clubs normally do the initial contact, but yeah, I mean, everybody's trying to make it the best event possible, and you're gonna, what are you guys doing, and those kind of things. You'll talk, you'll communicate.
Yeah, I mean, the industry's so tight knit that I imagine that it would not be a surprise as to what's happening at Kennywood if Cedar Point is co-hosting the event. As I think it went, I'm not an ACE member, full disclosure, but I believe that CoasterCon was Cedar Point, Kennywood, and then a third park, maybe Hershey. I can't remember. All right.
Yeah, but again, it's grouping them together, to where you can do it like that.
Yeah, so it's a mini coaster trip. The whole drive is 6 hours or so, which spreads out the parks enough that they can make their own money. So, what's the best way to go by marketing an enthusiast event? I mean, because we're talking about a specific demographic here. We're talking about members of a club. So you have that channel. What are other channels that you can use to reach the people and to sell as many tickets as you want for these events?
Yeah, well, that goes back to what we started at the beginning of our conversation. that you do want to have those relationships with the different clubs. So when you are going to do these events, you let them know what the date is, what the ticket prices are, when they're going to go on sale. But the other channel, you can put it on your own channels, with blogs, and you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and say you're doing that. But you're going to reach just a small percentage of your audience that way, because majority that are going to see that content, they're not a member of one of these clubs. While they'd love to come to the event, they're not going to be eligible because they're not one of those club members. So really, I would recommend, if you're going to do an event like this, is a Facebook group, and that is the best way to communicate when tickets are going to go on sale. If there's any changes to the itinerary, it's a great place for the people that have bought a ticket and are coming to the event, and if it's your second, third, fourth years, and so on, with it, a place for people to share their experiences at the event. So really, I think the best way to communicate is by creating one of those, so Facebook, like a Facebook group, or something like that, to where it's just one place and it's all about the event.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see the benefit in that. Now, one thing I've noticed that some parks do, and I hate this, is when they put it on their public calendar, because that's basically giving you a flyer for a party you're not invited to in some cases. But I guess to each their
Yeah,
own.
but you want to make it like, it's you want to. The first year it's tough because nobody knows what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But as the years go on, you build anticipation. You use that Facebook group to say, hey, tickets are going to go on sale on this date. Just like if you're, say you're a baseball fan or something, you look forward to when those opening day tickets go on sale. So it's the same thing for the Coaster Enthusiast when they have these events that they do annually.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know when tickets go on sale, and the tickets normally go pretty fast. So like a Facebook group is the perfect place to do those countdowns, like, ticket sales, this Friday, 10 a.m., those kind of things. So, you want to make sure that, you just don't put it on sale and nobody knows about it. You have to make some noise with that, but you have to make that noise within the communities, reach out to the different clubs, ACE, Great Ohio Coaster Club, Coaster Crew, all those different ones out there, and let them know, hey, just FYI, tickets are going to go on sale this date.
Yeah, I suppose they could put in their newsletter or on their social media or someone, because that's going to directly address the people that are members of the club. Now, let me ask you this. This seems to be the $1,000,000 question, because it seems like a lot of parks went in a lot of different directions with this year. Do you put a cap on it?
There's, you have to look at your park. You have to look at what your catering facility can hold. If you're going to have guest speakers and you're going to have those in a theater, what is the capacity there? How many rides are going to be open, for the morning and the night exclusive ride time sessions? What's going to provide the most value? If you're only going to have 3 or 4 rides open, you only want to have this many people there. If you're going to have the whole park, more people there. But then it goes back again to what your capacity, is for those, catering facilities and the guest speakers in the theaters. What you don't want to do is you don't want to split people up to where they're, half the group's eating lunch at this time, then the other group has lunch at that time. Half the people are doing behind the scenes tour at this time, the other half's doing it, an hour after they're done. You want to try to create it to where everybody's doing the same things at the same time. So to do that, it's preferred that you do put a capacity on your event, so you're not exceeding, the number of seats you have available, for lunch and dinners, and that people can't get into the theater. So you really have to use those kind of numbers that you have available in terms of what your capacity at the park is, and that's where you kind of draw your number.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that there's a damned if you do situation, because I know that there are a lot of events nowadays that sell a lot of tickets, and a lot of the feedback is, we had ERT on this ride. I only got to ride it once because I waited an hour. What's the point? But at the same time, had they not sold that many tickets, you may not have been able to go. So you have to choose. You're right. I mean, you have to choose where you're targeting this thing. Do you want to have as,
You do.
but if it's not an especially if it's not an ERT based event, or if you're going to do a bunch of rides, which you're starting to rack up the cost at that point. But if it's more about the presentations and stuff, I imagine you could do more people. I mean, I don't know. I suppose you, as you said, you probably look at your your criteria, your agenda for the event, and you kind of make that determination. For the events
Yeah,
that you've done, are the capacities typically the same, or is it based on each event?
it's no, it has the same capacity, and what you also want to look at too is the experience, because if they're going to come back, you need a great experience for them, and you want to provide value. A lot of these, enthusiasts that come to these events, they're pass holders to the parks that are holding the events. So if you're creating one, there's, a lot of good percentage is going to have a season pass to your park. So what you want to do is, because they're going to have to pay, on top of that, it's not a freebie because they're a season pass holder. There's a, it's a ticketed event, but you want to make sure everybody has a great time. And if you're drawing from, you know, and internationally, you want to make sure that that value is there. And you mentioned the ERT, we might only get one ride. Well, if you cap it at a certain number, then they're guaranteed, if they want to ride 5 or 6 times, 7 times, 10 times on the same coaster at night, or in the morning, those opportunities are going to be there for them. So it's better to lean toward, let's have the best experience possible that we can deliver for the attendees than how many people can we sell tickets to.
So what goes into the building the itinerary? It seems like that would be something that you have to work on months in advance. Not only getting the other departments on board, but trying to build one different from year to year. Do you think that's important? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you need to change it up a little bit where you can. I mean, but they all want to ride the major rides. They want the best night rides. They want the newest attraction in there. So you want to make sure that you have the best rides as part of those early morning and late night rides. You also you want to be able to provide opportunities and experiences that you can't get any other time that you're going to the park. So you have a behind the scenes tour, of some of your roller coasters. You have guest speakers, whether it's from the park or with the industry, or maybe it's somebody that designed, you just open, just all of the things that the guest does not get, an enthusiast does not get on their just daily, visits to a park. You want to make sure that's part of the itinerary. So again, that value, they're getting to see a park in a way that they normally don't get to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, having guest speakers and stuff, it's so niche, because when the average consumer really doesn't care who designs a ride, they want to know that it's fun and they want to know it's safe, and they'll take your word for that. But for people like you or I, or members of the American Coaster Enthusiast and so on, I want to know every little thought that went through their head as they were ratcheting the bolts, and I suppose it's kind of fun to kind of cater to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But that's what you want to do, is just provide some experiences that they're not going to be able to get, at the time that they're at the park. They love the behind the scenes tours, the enthusiasts do. They love hearing from guest speakers. Um, just add that during the day, games, have some things like that, scavenger hunts, um, you know, trivias, just different types of things that you can do throughout the keep it as interactive as possible.
yeah, the scavenger hunts are. I mean, I imagine if I went to a park that I don't normally go to, they probably wouldn't be something I'd be interested in. But I know at my home park, scavenger hunts are a lot of fun because testing your knowledge for a place that you're very familiar with is oddly satisfying.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing you want to do too is, everybody's got their phone today, right? So everybody, we talked about this last week, everybody's an influencer. So you want to do different things too, where you're giving out, maybe trophies and or prizes for, the person that, covered the event the best on their social media channels, or, somebody that had, a TikTok award, whatever it might be. But just find ways that you can make it interactive, and that way, when it's all over social media about your event, those days you're having it, when you have a little bit of a competition there for these prizes.
yeah, it's kind of funny because I think somebody put it best on Facebook this year, and they're like, "Oh, it's Coaster Stock Day. That means 500 people are going to become social media experts all of a sudden." Because they're probably seeing it all over their feed. But when tying it back to like what we've told about social media for the past 2 months or 3 months that we've been doing this podcast, I think that people are far more interested in your experience and how much fun you're having and what you're doing, rather than the beast is 7,359 plus 3 feet now. Like, you don't drop a press release. Nobody cares, but, yeah. So what's in it for the parks besides selling tickets? We've touched on social media a little bit. Obviously that's going to be heavy, but like, what does the park get out of this? Because it seems like a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of planning goes into it. What comes out for the parks?
Well, I think it's relationship building with your guests. With those different coaster communities. So that's a big part of it. It's just building those relationships, but also social media today. There's going to be that awareness that is being created out there, because all of their friends, all their followers are seeing everything that they're doing that day, all these rides that they're riding, that they're having so much fun on, and that their friends and neighbors and coworkers that follow them, maybe they want to come to your park and experience those as well. So it's a lot of fun for the enthusiasts, but for the parks, it's just about building ups, and not necessarily with the clubs even. I mean, it's each person is an individual, and you see these people after the event at the park. So you just want to do that with it. It's just making people feel like it's the place they want to be because they had so much fun at this event.
Yeah, it's all about the camaraderie. It's not about the ERT. It's not about the guest speakers. It's about the friends that you make for a lifetime. So, speaking of which, so a park generally has the same rides year over year. They add some, they remove some. It's generally the same. How do you get enthusiasts to want to come back every year if you have the event every
Well,
year?
you just hit on it, Ryan. It's the camaraderie. You want to make it to where they're just as excited the next year to see all the friends that they met at this event. And then by the third year, the fourth year, it becomes one big family reunion for the coaster enthusiast community. It's the one thing that they look forward to. As soon as the date goes on the calendar, it's a countdown to when we're going to have this event again, and I'm going to be able to see all my friends. And you can have days, and weather's always a factor, and it can rain for 2 or 3 hours, and it delays some of maybe the exclusive ride time or some of the activities you want to do in the day. But you find that nobody cares, nobody minds, because they're just having so much fun, talking with each other, sharing stories of the different parks they've been to, their favorite rides. So it's just those like-minded people coming together as one, and it's just one big family reunion. And that's what that's what it's going to really make an event sustainable, something that people want to repeat year after year, because like you said, the rides are going to be the same year after year. So you're not always going to have a big new coaster, something to show off. So you have to build it on something else, and that's the camaraderie part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it goes beyond camaraderie. Enthusiasts become like family to a lot of people. But I know several that I can think of a couple right now that met at Coaster Stock and are married now.
Yeah,
You know,
that is 100% true too. There are so many stories, not only at like the Coaster Stock event, but throughout the industry, where someone met their spouse, at an event. The ACE, summer conference that I went to in 1992. A guy that was he was in my wedding party. He was from Milwaukee. I had met him in line riding the racer,
hmm
and became good friends. So he's in my wedding party. But he met his wife at that conference,
Oh, sure. I
and
mean, I met my
they now live in.
girlfriend.
It happens.
I met my girlfriend at a park. Like-minded people doing like-minded things. That's why they get along. I believe you met your wife at a hockey game, right?
I did.
Yeah. See, I mean, it's so all you single lads and ladies out there, if you want to go pick up, if you want to strut your feathers, what a great place to do it. And in all seriousness, though, if you're, it's very difficult to, if that's not your scene, to go out to a bar and to find a woman or find a man or whatever your taste is, because what do you have in common with them except for where you are right now? But at an enthusiast event, if you're really into coasters, the person's there for a reason. It's because they're also really into coasters. So, hopefully the compatibility's there. So, the best of luck to everybody on that, because I just turned this conversation really awkward. So,
But really, Ryan, I mean, when you're talking about these coaster events, the people that they start attending them, they friends every year, and they become lifelong friends from that point on. And that's the great thing about it. When you're on the park side, just seeing how much fun everybody's having and all these friendships being developed, that's really what it's
Isn't
all
that what the
about.
parks are all about too? I mean, it goes so far beyond just the event itself. I mean, about creating memories and solidifying friendships and stuff. And
It does.
so if you have an event, I mean, like some of the parks are doing monster truck events. That's going to draw people who are into monster trucks. So if you draw people that are into monster trucks, you're into monster trucks, and you just meet people that are like minded, and those are friends for life potentially. All right, enough about monster trucks, Don. That's all you ever want to talk about. It's time to move on to the next segment of our show, and that is. Oh, it's Pick Six. It's a part of the show when we talk about the latest news, information, rumors, patents, or anything that's on our mind about the industry in the form of six objects. That's the worst way I could possibly describe this segment. Don, why don't you take number one?
Well, Knott's Berry Farm, they've showed off the new Montezuma Revenge trains. It's a little bit different than what they were before. A little, over-the-shoulder harness on these. But, when you're looking at that ride, there's not a lot of, um, intense, sharp turns, that kind of thing. So, that'll work. So there's not a lot of concern there. But, it looks good.
Yeah, I agree. So the trains are made by Premier Rides, which is interesting because the ride is Schwarzkopf, obviously. But those are going to be comfort collars. It's very similar to the Skyrocket too. Personally, I never really had a problem with the comfort collars. I think that they're a little weird to latch once you sit in the seat. I know that they do affect capacity a little bit, but I've never had discomfort from them. Don, do you have any experience with the comfort collars?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with you, Ryan. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all, and they're there for a reason. And but I think it looks really good, and the layout, the design of this ride, it doesn't lend itself where that becomes a problem that they're over the shoulder.
I
There
agree.
are
And
rides, with a lot of shifting and a lot of,
mhm.
they're a little bit, rough, and then it does hit you a little bit hard, but that's not going to happen here. I think that this is going to be a great experience.
I do too. And honestly, I don't think the comfort. I mean, I rode the Skyrocket 2 Tempesto at Busch Gardens Williamsburg a couple months ago, and I didn't find any discomfort in them whatsoever. But yeah, they're saying that the ride it's gonna have new trains. It's gonna have a new theme. It's Montezuma's Revenge now. Um,
Right, Montezuma, yeah.
so I'm gonna guess that they're replacing the flywheel system with some sort of linear synchronous since they got new trains. Have you heard anything about that?
That'd be a guessing game, like you just said,
Yeah.
on that. I haven't heard anything further.
Well, my thought with that, and do not take this as official word, of course, but they removed all the sections of track except for the ends of the track. So my thought is that they replace the sections that need to have a launch mechanism. I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. It's going to be opening in spring of next year, spring of 2023. So that's going to be really exciting. I know that there was a lot of fear that that ride would be removed. So I'm glad it's not. I'm glad that it's going to be, there to entertain us for years to come, especially old Schwarzkopfs, which are becoming more and more rare. So,
I always love when they breathe new life into existing attractions rather than removing them.
right. And if you stay to the end of the podcast, you'll understand why there's significance to what Don's saying. Anyway, story number two. We're staying at Knott's Berry Farm. They're adding two new haunted houses this year. Now, Knott's has had Knott's Scary Farm. Is it 49 years now? Is that what I read?
Yeah, it's gonna be 49 years. They're the granddaddy of the Halloween events. They were the first ones. If you've ever been out there for this event, it's phenomenal. They do just the mazes, the whole atmosphere. Uh, you've got a lot of really, really good scare actors that have been doing it for years. It's just, I have not heard anyone that's gone to not Scary Farm, we'll call it here, and not had time.
I completely agree. It's very legendary. It's very original. The two mazes are Bloodline 1842. That's the first one. It's armed with the latest Bellaton weaponry. You can choose to heed the call to action and embark on a perilous journey with the immortal Daybreakers. Travel through the busy city streets of Valandia while hunting the bloodthirsty Vampira. I'm pronouncing these names. They're all made up names as well as I can, so I do apologize. In an all-out war. Bring light into the darkness and survive the vicious onslaught of vampires and bring honor to your order. So that sounds super cool. If you check out Knott's website, you can see some graphics and stuff for him. But there is a second maze that's coming. It's the Grimior. Is that how would you?
I would pronounce it that way.
Grimior. Now I'm assuming that's based on Grim.
But we're probably wrong, but that's how I would pronounce it.
Right. It's probably based on Grimm's tales. But turn the page and enter the world of an ancient relic whose dark stories exist purely to turn your greatest nightmares into a reality. Enter the world of a mysterious spellbook and escape the demonic creatures inside to be eternally trapped within. That sounds like it's just a grand old time. The picture, for those of you who are listening to the audio only podcast, is a bunch of people reading a book, and they look kind of scared. They're sitting around a campfire reading a book like the like not scary stories to tell in the dark. Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon, the Midnight Society. They're sitting around a fire reading a book, and it looks like something's happening. So that looks so exciting. I really want to make it out to Not Scary Farm sooner than later to check out their event. But
yeah, just such a phenomenal job that they do with the storytelling of their haunted attractions. Just the makeup, that the scare actors have. It's really, like I said, the granddaddy of the Halloween events out there.
Yeah, the original one.
All right, Ryan, number 3, SeaWorld Orlando is serving up free ice cream this month. It's in the Wild Arctic Plaza. It's part of their Electric Ocean event that they have this month. Sounds like a lot of fun, but it's while supplies last every day.
Yeah, the Electric Ocean, I saw that show on their lagoon probably 5 years ago, and it was incredible. Burst of fire, little fireworks, water, you kind of get wet during it. Free ice cream on top of it. That looks amazing. I'm not an ice cream guy, but the picture and that picture's from an article from clickorlando.com, shows a push pop, and I can totally go for a push pop right now.
Oh, yeah, it looks so refreshing, doesn't it? To have that in the Central Florida, summers, to have, something like that to help you cool down.
Yeah, SeaWorld Orlando, completely underrated park, discussed it a million times. Yeah, they also have the beer fest going on too. They mentioned that in the article. The SeaWorld parks, so all the Busch Gardens parks are doing it that same weekend. So Don, we're going to have to discuss this, and this has been the buzz around the enthusiast community and the industry for several days now. Storyville Gardens, Nashville. Okay, the picture that I put up on the screen is a screen grab from their website. And it shows kind of like this luscious garden. And so Nashville, apparently they announced this a year ago that they're going to build this park. They don't have property for it. Their website is kind of done. But they announced that they were implying that they were getting like a B&M invert on National Roller Coaster Day. Don, had you heard about this before this week?
Not too much. I mean, you heard some, rumblings that Nashville, was a possible location for a new park, but not too much until the week. I love the narrated tour that they had on YouTube there about it. Just really immersive, and the theming looks great. But it's still, like you said, they don't have anything acquired or anything like that to do this. But concept-wise, it looks amazing.
There are a lot of concepts that look amazing that rarely come to fruition. It's difficult to build a park from the ground up. We're going to have to bring on maybe Dennis Spiegel or somebody from Jack Rouse Associates to talk about what it takes, especially in the United States, to do that. Because there's that Adventureland, Iowa. They're the latest park I can think of to open up from the ground up. And we've had articles about them having attendance issues already. Before that was American Dream. And that's had attendance issues, and they're not running all the rides. And then the one that comes up to mind before that, and then this is stepping back a couple years, is Hard Rock Park, which lasted 2 years. Hard Rock Park and Freestyle Music Park in 2007 and 8. So it's very difficult to start a park in the United States. It's very expensive, unless you're walking in with somewhere between $300 million and $1 billion, depending on the market. It's going to be very difficult to check out. Do you, they had Opryland there. Do you think Nashville is a city that can support a park? I mean, because we're talking about, it's about 4 hours from Buc-ee's. I mean, Sevierville slash Gatlinburg
Yeah,
slash
yeah.
Dollywood. Um, do you think that they could they get a million and a half visitors or whatever would be required to support the project?
Yeah, Nashville has grown leaps and bounds since Opryland, closed its gates. So yeah, I think it'd be a great city, for a park. That's one of the things that I have a lot of friends that live in Nashville. And that's one of the things that they say they miss, since Opryland closed is, that hometown park, so yeah, I mean, would the interest be there? Yeah, but it all comes down again. You talk about the financing to build something like that. Just starting with land acquisition, even to begin with, it's hard to imagine it going from this narrated tour to reality, just because of just what it would cost to build something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even in a market like that where they've proven in the past that they, at least 10 years ago, 15 years, well, more than that, almost 20 years ago now, they could support a park like Opryland. Um, you know, things change. And it's not even necessarily that the city got smaller, because it's certainly gotten bigger. It's grown, as you stated. But it also comes down to, did those people become loyal Dollywood people or Beach Bend people or Kentucky Kingdom people or Six Flags Over Georgia people? And then you build a park and it's kind of like that's the diet version of what we have 2 hours away. You know, the concept art does look amazing. I'm thinking that that would probably be, if they built it the way that they're kind of implying that they're going to, that would be $1 billion park. It would be very difficult to finance that in today's world. Interest rates are rising, so get your loans now. But I would be a visitor, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, concept wise, looks amazing. Excited about it because of everything else that would have to happen.
I think they said that they're going to open the coaster in like 2025 or so. Don't place your bets because I don't think the park, if they broke ground today, the park wouldn't be ready in 2025. They would have to open it in phases. And then, I don't know. A lot of this just doesn't sit right with me. Um, but if it does happen, I'll eat my hat. But I'd be a visitor. I love Nashville, and I would love to visit this park because it looks pretty darn cool.
Yep, and I'm sure there's a Buc-ee's nearby. I know there's in Tennessee on the way to Nashville, so that would be a good thing for me.
Right.
But Ryan,
Like I
moving
said, it's
on.
4 hours from the closest Bucky's, and well, that they're going to open in Sevierville.
Right, Ryan, moving on to number 5 on the pick six. The theme park industry, it's always looking for the newest and best ways to enhance guest experience. And you look at Universal Orlando, and they've got a patent that could change themed rides. It's kind of special effects. False surfaces is what they're calling it. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. I looked into this quite a bit, because it seems like Universal files a patent about every week. So if we covered that, we could have a whole show based on it. But the way that I understand that it works is that it's going to use inflated airbags. So you can create a false floor or false walls and then have a prop hidden behind it. And then when it deflates, you can see that prop. So the closest equivalent I can think of is either Disney's PhilharMagic in Magic Kingdom, where they distract you for a second and the proscenium around the stage goes up, making the stage much larger, or that last scene from Poseidon's Fury at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, where you're in a certain room and then you see a flash and then all of a sudden the walls had gone up in the air and you're in a different room. So yeah, they're going to be able to do some really cool things. They're going to hide the props behind the airbag, so you think you're looking at the floor, but you're not. You're looking at an airbag. And then they'll distract you for a second, deflate the airbag, and put the prop there in the matter of a fraction of a second. So I think that sounds really cool, don't you?
It does, and like we were talking about at the beginning there. It definitely would enhance the guest experience. With these kind of false surface effects.
Yeah, I completely agree. Very, very cool. Out of Universal is really the one that's kind of exciting nowadays. Disney's always done stuff like this, and Disney's all like Apple, where they file a lot of patents, they don't do anything with them in a lot of cases. But Universal seems like they're very narrow-minded, and like this is the technology we need for a ride that we're developing, probably for Epic Universe, if I had to guess. But that's really cool. So yeah, good for them. All right, Don. So the story number 6 is one that's very close to most people who are involved in the industry or are enthusiasts or whatever, and we're talking about Give Kids the World. They're having their Coasting for Kids fundraiser at Holiday World on August 20th. Give Kids the World is an organization based out of Kissimmee, Florida, that allows families to go down there and have an amazing experience and visit some of the parks and stuff. And the kids typically have different medical conditions, which would possibly prevent this sort of thing. So, Don, you've visited the village before. What can you tell me about it?
It's an amazing place. Events like the Coasting for Kids that they're doing this weekend, and they've done it at parks throughout the country. Over the past several years, the money raised from those events, I mean, it helps these families have their vacations, week-long vacations down there. Um, these kids that they're ill, them and their families just have the best week, when they're down there. Um, a lot of times, about the sick kids, but it also affects maybe they have a brother and a sister, and they're not able to do things, because of the situation that they're in. So, they also need a break like this as well. So, Coaching for Kids is coming to a park near you. Certainly, sign up for it, raise money for it. It's going to go for a great cause, and and if you're in Central Florida, be sure to stop by, check it out. Maybe let them know that want to see the facility. But if you walk through the facility and you see the families and just enjoying the different activities, and the places where they have the meals and the ice cream and the different characters and things that they have that are associated with the village, you're definitely going to want to participate in these events.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's very near and dear to anybody that's involved in the industry. If you want to have more information or possibly donate or volunteer, you can visit their website at gktw.org. That's Give Kids the World, gktw.org. All
Yeah, a
right.
lot of great people involved with that organization as well, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely, again, if you're in the Orlando area, just make a call, send an email, just let them know you're there and you want to check out the facility, and I'm sure to show you around.
So, Don, we're coming to the end of this episode this week, and it's been a fine episode, but I'm particularly excited about next week. And next week, we're going to have a special guest. And this guest means a lot more to most people in the industry than they realize. Don, who's next week's guest?
It's going to be Jeff Pike, and if you don't know the name, you certainly have experienced a number of the attractions that he's been involved in designing. And if you have an interest in being an engineer and designing roller coasters and other actions, you're going to want to tune in. You're going to listen to what Jeff has to say. Just a great guy, very energetic. Has a lot of information to share with people who are interested in getting into the industry. And we couldn't have a better guest for episode number 10 next
I completely
week.
agree. And the thing about Jeff that I think is so cool is so many people aspire to design roller coasters and rides and stuff. And Jeff is a real kind of rags to riches situation. He didn't grow up poor. He actually grew up near me, and I grew up upper middle class, or whatever, But he he doesn't have family in the industry, to my understanding. He loved parks. He grew up going to Kings Island. Went to college for engineering, and then got an internship with either Great Coasters International or Custom Coasters International. I can't remember the time period, but it's essentially the same people. And then splintered off, making his own company, and he still partners with Great Coasters International for a lot of their projects like Titan Track and their trains and so on. So it's going to be really cool. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about his advice to anybody that's interested in becoming a roller coaster engineer. We're going to talk about the different projects they work on. The sky warp models, the Titan Track, all that stuff that both Skyline and Jeff personally are involved with. We're gonna have an extra special episode. If all goes well, we're actually gonna record it in person with him. So not guaranteeing that, but it's probably going to happen. So we're really, really excited about it. Hopefully the audio will be really good because we got some help with that. But you definitely have to tune in. So since you've listened to the end, what we want you to do is, again, at attractions _group, send us questions for Jeff Pike. We'll ask him the questions that you want to ask. If you've got dying, burning questions, he loves the enthusiast community. He loves answering your questions. He loves giving advice. He loves being a mentor. So send us your questions. Tweet them at us. We'd love to hear them. We'll ask him next week.
Yeah, and again, it's an episode next week that you do not want to miss. If you just have interest in the industry, you want to hear what Jeff has to say. You want to be an engineer and design, these different attractions. So it's a can't miss episode next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, as always, we really, really appreciate you, especially listening to the end. So again, attractions _GRP on Twitter. You can find us on your favorite podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple, and Google. I almost said Facebook. I don't think Facebook does podcasts. I think they used to, but they don't. We're not on it if they do have it. But and also if you on YouTube, you search for the Attractions Group podcast, you can find the video version. And again, if you follow us, you don't necessarily have to watch the whole video version, but just go on there and give us a little subscription. And then when we go live at some point and Don cleans up his garage and gives away a bunch of stuff that he has no idea what the value is, but you can turn around and eBay it for $200,000. That's not a guarantee, but we'd love to have you. We want to make this as interactive as possible. But Don, as always, thank you for co-hosting this podcast with me and making me wear a Hawaiian shirt again today. And we'll see you next week with a very special episode.
All right, we'll see you later.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.